This is the Epomaker HE65. It's a wireless 65% Hall effect gaming keyboard, but is it worth it? Let's find that out. Before we get into the video, I do want to mention that this keyboard was sent out to me by Epomaker, but I am not being paid and every opinion given is mine and mine alone. So without further ado, let's get into the build of the HE65. So the first thing you'll see in the box is a manual. Right under the manual is the keyboard itself, wrapped in a soft plastic bag with a dust cover on top of it. Pulling out the cardboard, you'll see a few accessories. A pretty long USB-C to USB-A cable, an unbranded keycap and switch puller, and 2 extra switches. Now with all that out of the way, let's get into the build of the HE65. When first looking at the HE65, you'll probably notice the small screen on the top right of the board. It's a relatively high resolution screen that shows the time, date, the current battery percentage, and a few other things that we'll go over a little later in the video. To the right of the screen is this pretty uniquely placed knob on the side of the keyboard. It's made out of metal and actually feels pretty nice to use. You can turn your PC's audio up or down, as well as mute your PC's audio with a click, just like most other keyboards with knobs. The entire case of the HE65 is made from ABS plastic, but it's actually pretty high quality, and since the plate is made from aluminum, this keyboard isn't that light and doesn't have any flex. On the front right of the keyboard is a little Epomaker logo printed on the case, and moving around to the back of the HE65 are a few things. Starting from the right is a USB-C port, which can be used for using the keyboard wired, as well as charging the two 4,000 mAh batteries inside of it. To the left of that is a switch to change between being connected through the 2.4 GHz dongle, the Bluetooth 5.0 mode, and being wired. Continuing to the left is another switch for using this keyboard on a Mac device or a Windows device. And lastly is a little port to hold the 2.4 GHz dongle while you're not using it, which is quite useful for people that have a lot of wireless keyboards and don't want to get them mixed up, or while they're traveling so they don't lose the dongle. Flipping the keyboard over, you'll notice 4 rubber feet to prevent it from slipping around, 2 two-stage feet that gives you the option to use the keyboard fully angled, half angled, or fully flat, although the default angle of the keyboard is pretty comfortable. And in the center of the back is a little plate, which I assume is made from metal, with the name of the keyboard on it, and a few other details about the keyboard. Going back up to the top of the keyboard are the keycaps. The keycaps on the HE65 are made from a double-shot PBT material, which makes them pretty durable. As well as that, they're also cherry profile, which I'm sure a lot of people will be happy about. The switches in the HE65 are the Gateron magnetic white switches. They're linear, are pre-lubed from the factory, and have a starting force of 30 grams and an end force of 47. Under the switches are south-facing RGB diodes, which get decently bright. They have a lot of effects you could choose from in the Epomaker software. And since they're south-facing, if you want to, you could swap out the keycaps for side-printed ones. The HE65 is also gasket mounted, which just like the HE68 before that I reviewed, doesn't seem to squish much. Either way, the HE65 still benefits from the sound isolation that comes with gaskets. And adding to that, there's also multiple foam and silicone pads throughout the entirety of the case. Now with all that out of the way, here's a quick sound test of the HE65. The pulling rate in the HE65 is 8,000 Hz, which is super impressive, especially for a wireless keyboard. With the keyboard having such a high pulling rate, it brings the latency down to 0.125 milliseconds, which is essentially as fast as being wired. With the physical body of the HE65 now being out of the way, we can finally get into the other selling point of this keyboard, the software features. Starting with probably the most expected Hall effect feature, adjustable actuation. With adjustable actuation, as the name suggests, you can change the actuation or trigger point for when the keyboard sends the input back to the computer to almost any depth, whether it be a super sensitive 0.1 millimeters or all the way up to a full key press or 3.8 millimeters. Having this ability lets you fully customize your experience and make changes to your very specific playstyle and circumstances, like using a 0.1 millimeter actuation point when you're in a super competitive game where every single millisecond can count, or setting a specific key's actuation to a full key press to not accidentally click it when it's an alt or a special ability, or how I do it by setting it to 1 millimeter just so I can have that perfect in between. With this feature, you can also change the reset point or how far the key has to go up for you to be able to press it again, which essentially fully gets rid of the downsides of having a super high actuation point, because usually in a mechanical switch, the reset point is where the actuation point is, and when it's so high up, you'd essentially have to fully let go of the key just to be able to press it again. The next main software feature is Snap Key. Normally when pressing 2 of the opposite movement keys in games, like A or D at the same time, your character will come to a complete stop because your inputs are contradicting themselves. With Snap Key, you combine 2 of the opposite movement keys together. When doing so, the last key out of the 2 that you press will take priority and disable the other one even if you're still holding the other one down. This lets you change directions essentially instantly and gives you a pretty big advantage. So much of an advantage that Valve banned it in CSGO. So if you use it while in a match, you'll just be kicked from the match. You won't be like banned from the game, but you can't really use it in that game. Other than that, it works in any other game. The next feature is MT. MT lets you bind 2 inputs to a singular key press, depending on if you're holding it or you clicked it. This feature also allows you to change the amount of time it takes for the key to register as a hold instead of a click. The last main software feature that I'm going to talk about today for the HE65 is DKS. With DKS, you can bind up to 4 inputs for a singular key press. However, instead of being based on a hold or click, they each activate at different actuation levels. The actuation points for this feature can be customized in the settings, but by default, they activate at the actuation point, when bottoming out, when lifting from the bottom, and when reaching the reset point. There are a ton of combinations that can be used for this feature, but one of the main ones is running when half holding W and sprinting when fully pressing it down. With all that out of the way, I do still want to mention a few of the smaller features in the Epomaker software, with the first being key tests, where you can see if each key's input is as expected. You're able to change any key to any mouse button input or media key. You can create custom macros. You can change the amount of time it takes for the keyboard to go on standby mode on either the 2.4 GHz mode or Bluetooth. The Epomaker HE65 comes in at $100, which for that price, you're getting a lot. But is it worth it? That's up to you to decide. So whether you watch this video for entertainment or you're actually looking for a keyboard to buy, I appreciate you being here. I hope you enjoyed the video and I hope to see you in the next video.